Get started. I'll call the meeting to order and open the meeting. Welcome to this City Planning Committee meeting of the 13th of September. We have here Alderman Briscoe, Councillor Harvey, Alderman Barakis, Councillor Dutta and myself, and Councillor Coates to make up the numbers. We have no leave absence nor apologies. I'd like to advise all present that audio and video of this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the community via the City of Hobart YouTube channel. And if there is any elected member present who has not yet signed into the meeting in accordance with our COVID-19 safe plan, please do so now. And I'd ask that everybody turns their mobiles to silent or off. The acknowledgement of country, so I'd like to recognise the deep history and culture of this place upon which Hobart was built, and wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which the City of Hobart was built. I acknowledge the determination and resilience of the Palawa people of Tasmania La Trawitta, who have survived invasion and dispossession and who continue to maintain their identity, culture and rights. I recognise the value of continuing Aboriginal knowledge and cultural practice, and pay my respect to elders past and present, and to any Aboriginal people here or listening today. So I believe Councillor Ewan will join us later as well. They have a notice of motion for later in the agenda. Item 2 is confirmation of minutes.
So moved.
Councillor Harvey. Those in favour? Those against? Item is carried. Item 3 is consideration of supplementary items, but I don't think we have any. Item 4, is there any indications of pecuniary and conflicts of interest? No. Any transfer of agenda items? Item 6, Planning Authority items, consideration of items with deputations. Thank you, Alderman Barakis. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Item is carried. Item 7, committee is acting as a planning authority, and we go to the deputation. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thanks very much. 66 Burnett Street, I think we'll skip that and defer that in a moment, but because we're not hearing that today, are we?
No, Chair.
Okay. So item 7.2.2, which is 339 Lena Valley Road, Lena Valley, it's the subdivision, and we have Nico van Leuven. Nico, would you like to come up to the table? Yes, and just sit at that table, and you have 5 minutes to address the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I sent an email in as well, just explaining the situation. We bought the property about 3.5 years ago, and the garden shed is not on our land formally. It was subdivided off years ago. The person who subdivided still owns the land adjacent to the property, and she offered to adjust the boundary to include the shed. So it's kind of an adjustment like that. Because her property is classified environmental living and ours is residential, so the strip of about 75 square meters transfers from environmental to residential, and from what I understand, that's why it's classified as a subdivision instead of a boundary adjustment. As a consequence, we had to submit all these different plans and reports and stuff, and we've done most of them, including a bushfire hazard management plan and a formal plan drawn up with the new boundaries. But after we've done all that, we got back from the planning officer that we also had to submit a parking assessment. We thought that wasn't necessary because we're not changing the use. It's just going to be our residents. We're just going to be parking as we were before. So yeah, that's where we are at. Just looking at my partner to see if I'm missing something.
Is that okay? Did you want to add anything else?
Just
Come to the table if you wouldn't mind, because it just means the mics pick up what you're saying.
yeah, I guess the land got subdivided in the 90s and the dwelling's been there since the 60s. And all we're doing is adjusting the boundary about 3 metres back and a small bit in the corner. And so there's no actual subdivision going on, but because of the nature of the planning scheme of the land, it means we have to go through a subdivision application, and that's why.
Because it's environmental living, yep, okay.
Yeah, so that's why formally the advice is to refuse the application. But we're hoping that you'll approve it because we're just
Okay,
not changing
thank you.
anything.
I'll open it to the committee for any questions. Councillor Harvey.
It sounds like it's a technical hitch, that there's no solid grounds for refusal. It's just because there's a planning scheme. I don't know, is it an anomaly? Would that be the right word through you?
Can I?
To the chair, to the director?
Yeah, well, certainly there are not any significant planning implications with this proposal.
Any further questions?
No, not for me.
Alderman Briscoe.
Yeah, thank you for that. Reading it, I thought here is bureaucracy gone mad, and planning scheme it's got a few holes in it. All you want to do is obtain 75 square metres at the rear of you. You don't really want another block at the back, a 75 square metre block at the back. I'm hoping we find a solution, but the fence at the moment, if there was a solution, you'd just put the fence around the back there, so it reads as one lot. Is that your plans? Yeah, thank you.
So
Yeah.
at the moment the fence is at the back?
The fence is already at the back, is
Yes,
it?
that's right. So it is all one lot at the moment, so we're just moving the boundary of our property to the fence pretty much.
It's already there.
The fence is already there.
Baracus.
So just coming off that, so if we went to your property right now and looked at it, it would look like it's your property anyway.
That's right, that's correct.
So functionally, you're just asking the titles and everything to match what reality looks like.
That's exactly right.
And as far as I've seen, there doesn't seem to be anybody around the community, around the area, that has any issue with what you guys are.
So two sides of our property is owned by the person who's given us the land who sold us the property, so she doesn't.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Dutta.
Thank you, Chair. Just through you. So my understanding of the reading of the report was that you are required to seal the driveway, and that's what you're not wanting to do, is it?
Yeah, that was, I just read that tonight, but that wasn't communicated to us. What we were asked was to do a parking plan, and that's what we refused to do. However, it does say that, but it also says in the planning scheme I saw that if the lot existed before the planning scheme changed, then you weren't required to do that. I did notice that in the agenda as well. Which our lot existed since the 90s. I think the planning scheme's just changed recently. Is that right?
Relatively recently, yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a bit of a tricky thing because it's one of those battle axe blocks with like a long driveway. And the parking, it's actually shared with the person who lives next door, and it's right of way, and it's just one of those situations that's been all right because we all get along as neighbors. If we're going to do a formal assessment, it actually gets really complicated, whereas we're actually not changing anything to the use.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions, you can take your seats again, and I'll open the item for discussion. Alderman Briscoe.
Thank you, Chair. Look, the application must be recommended for refusal because the applicant has stated they will not upgrade the driveway to a sealed surface. Now, can we explain that? Because they have no plans, it appears, no plans to change the driveway or change the parking or change the use.
Yeah, well, the provisions of the scheme talks about, if I refer you to the relevant section, just bear with me. Yeah, so clause 10.6.1, P41.
What page is that on?
Bear with me, it's fairly late. $185.
I suppose the function of this committee, Chair to the Director, is to put sense in, in this. And so 185, did you say?
185. That's correct.
Can I just get that before I make a further comment, Chair?
Look, if I may comment, Chair. Look, we understand that this is a technical refusal. We have prepared conditions of approval should the committee wish to not agree with the officer's recommendation.
Well, I'm happy to move that. If Alderman Briscoe doesn't want to.
Oh, I'd like to. I think we're all about to jump over each other to move it.
I'm happy to second.
Approval with the conditions that are set by the Director.
Thank
I
you.
think if we could talk around this, and I think we probably
We
all
all, I think
realise.
we're all going to agree here.
We all realise.
Thanks, Alderman Briscoe. Any
Thank you.
further comments? Alderman Brackus?
Just quickly, Chair, thank you. I think this is one of those ones where I think, as has been said, and appreciate that the planning officers have to take the pure planning approach to this, but the reality is this is a bit of one where the planning officers might be stuck having to take the rule of law angle, but there's a bit of a common sense and reality angle, and this doesn't affect anybody, and it makes more sense for them to do this than it does for them to continue on as a status quo. So I think it's a simple one to me.
Further comment? Just a question. So the driveway is obviously established. There is no need to do anything as a condition relating to the
No,
driveway?
no.
Thank God for that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion as moved by Alderman Briscoe based on Mr Noy's conditions. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. So that will go to full council for consideration next Monday. Thank you. I believe that there are some people interested in 66 Burnett Street, which is 7.2.1, which is we wouldn't ordinarily go to next. But can I have? I believe we have a motion for deferral relating to this.
I'm happy to move for deferral.
Thanks, Councillor Harvey.
Can I just point out that was as requested, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's been requested by the applicant, and it's likely to come back. I haven't got that in front of me. Is it the
11th. The extension was until the 11th.
11th
of October?
The
Okay.
extension was to the 11th, so it'll be the next round of meetings.
Okay.
Chair.
All right, thank you. So probably in a fortnight.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll put that motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. So we go now to 7.1.1, which is 1 Franklin Wharf. So that's stairs at what was Lola's.
I hope to. I wish to move the recommendation for approval.
Thank you.
I'm happy to second that. Yep.
You don't need to second.
So, any discussion? I just have a query, Mr Noyes. So, just in relation to access, because this is a new staircase going in. What's the access arrangements, and why? I mean, is there access, easy access into that restaurant as it is now for those with disabilities?
Chair, there's disabled access provided to the front of the building.
On the other side.
On the other side, and with internal access.
And so you don't need to struggle with the door. It's easy to get through. I'd just like to know, have that sort of peace of mind that was easily accessible. We're discussing accessibility in a moment anyway.
Yeah, look, that's my understanding, and we can confirm that.
Right,
for
thank you.
for the meeting.
So this,
Yeah.
Councillor Harvey.
I have one question. I've always been a bit perturbed by the concrete crash barrier, or whatever it is, on the corner there as well. Will that still be there? I've always thought riding a bike, it's actually an obstacle. And will these stairs be less of an obstacle? And also, will that, you know the concrete thing I'm talking about?
Yes, it's on page 15 of
Is
the
that
agenda.
still, is that proposed to be kept?
It appears to be. It appears to be.
Okay. So the stairs won't protrude past that, so it's immaterial, really, because that you can't ride a bike the other side of that anyway.
Yeah. Now, just be sorry. So I'm clear. The stairs do look to project beyond that.
Mm-hmm. So is that more of an obstacle, or creating an additional obstacle for pedestrians and cyclists?
Well,
It's within their footprint, I know.
it's in their footprint as far as I'm aware, and so certainly inside the line of the trees.
Okay, all right, yep, the tree's a good marker, yep, okay.
Is this a decision, or does that go to council?
Committee, I understand.
It's a committee decision,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So I think you moved it, Councillor Harvey?
No, I think Alderman Briscoe did.
Oh, Alderman Briscoe?
I attempted to second it before he reminded me we don't second
okay,
it.
okay.
You can do the next one.
All right, so if there's no further question or comment, and be interesting to hear.
Yeah, there is access internally.
Okay.
So yeah, there is DDA compliant access to the building.
Be interesting
And
to
to-
hear what the Access Advisory Committee says about that. Okay, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Items carried. Item 7.2.3, which is 43 to 47 Grover Street. We're back to the City of Hobart Interim Planning Scheme. I'll open the item for discussion. So that's the Wellspring Church, partial change of use to food services, and the recommendation is for approval. Alderman Barakis, you happy to move it?
I'm happy to move just to confirm. It does. I think it did say that somewhere here. They're not selling anything here. It's not turning into a retail. It's literally just a kitchen for them to use and distribute elsewhere. Yeah.
No?
Yeah, that's as I read the application, it's purely to use the kitchen for producing, I think, Chinese pastries and candy, and they will not selling anything on the site, distributing from the site.
And there is a condition, PLNS 3, which says it's only granted for preparation. Further discussion or comments? I'll put that. Those in favour? Those against? Item is carried. Item 7.2.4, which is 10 Selfs Point Road, partial demolition, alterations and extension. Alderman Barakis, thank you.
All right, move it.
You can second it.
I do have a comment though. This is
Uh-huh.
the bridge club that's been there for quite a while. Is bridge played in the dark? There seems to be there's no.
Most people would play the bridge.
It seems to be. I thought it might have been a bikie. Well, because there's no windows.
Yeah, just be careful though. It's a secret society.
Of bridge players.
No, it's my understanding is it's heavily utilised facility, hence the need for a further expansion.
Right, and people play bridge endlessly because there's no light that permeates the building, so you don't know how long you've been playing for by the sounds of it.
It's fairly addictive, I understand.
Yeah, I imagine it is. All right, I'm happy to support this. I think it's good if there's a number of people who are bridge fanatics. Excellent.
And the landlord is the Hobart City Council, isn't it?
That's correct.
No further discussion? I'll put that. Those in favour? Those against? Item is carried. We now go to reports. 8.1 Delegated Decision Report, planning. Who moved that? I didn't see.
Happy
Oh,
to.
yep, okay. Alderman Barakis. I'll put that. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. 8.2 is the advertising report. Councillor Dutta, thank you. Any things to flag there?
There is one item which is marked as a refusal, but that's for further consideration with the THC. The other items are, there's one on the front page, 58 Barrack Street, which has some minor works in the road reservation.
Good accommodation, yep, okay. All right, so Councillor Dutta's moves that. I'll put that. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. 8.3, welcome Councillor Ewan. 8.3 is monthly planning stats, 1st of August to the 31st of August.
So moved.
Monthly. Thanks, Councillor Harvey. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. And 8.4 is the monthly building statistics. Councillor Coates. You
So
happy to
moved.
move that?
Yep.
Okay. I'll put that. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. Item 9, motions of which have been given. So over to you, Councillor Ewan.
Thank you, thank you, and thanks for having me. I'd just like to introduce the motion that's on the books, and thank Neil for helping me out with some wording on it. So the motion is that council officers produce a report on potential mechanisms and issues for ensuring that development applications that propose improved access facilities to meet the equal access requirements of the National Building Code are not singularly refused because of breaches in the Heritage Code, the planning schemes or the Historic Cultural Heritage Act. I take it you've all read the rationale behind that, so I'll hand it over for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or comments? Councillor Harvey.
I assume this stems from a application in Melville Street that was rejected because of planning issues. Yeah. So I assume there's an opportunity here to look at how, well, whether the Disability Access Code would override the planning scheme potentially.
Mr Noy?
Yeah, well, or other measures to ensure that we can achieve a suitable outcome
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
access, as well as manage the heritage implications.
Yep. I'm happy to support. Yep.
Alderman Barakis.
I'm happy to support this as well, Chair. And I think, you know, as far as mechanism, I'm sure there's a bunch. I know there's certain provisions in heritage where it's, you know, you cannot destroy or you cannot remove heritage significance unless A, B, C, D. We can always add a E, F, G, whatever. There's a few other issues that I'd like to tack on there, but that's not really relevant to this discussion, so I won't jump into that. But I think this is a good common sense thing to look into. Well, regardless of what the result is at the end of the day, I think it's something that we should be looking into.
Alderman Briscoe.
Oh yeah, look, over the years we've had access facilities put into our building here, or the town hall, the Mercury building over the road. Both were sensible solutions to access issues. It's not as if we have spent the last X years refusing them because of we've got to obey the law, but at the same time we've got to federal laws take precedence over state laws anyway. So I can't think of circumstances where we refused disability access or equal access requirements in contrary to our I can't think of a development that has done that. So, but if the council officers, when they write their report, find a few, they'll be very interested in seeing them and seeing what mechanisms that we have used over the years to make sure there's equal access. I know the case that's before the High Court at the moment for Parliamentary Square development there will be an interesting one for all of us, I'm sure. And when you assess building applications, if it comes out in favour of the applicant who's a disability advocate, it'll be we'll have to when we see developments, we'll have to take that into account as well. But there is law that could be potentially changed in the next few weeks.
Any further comments, Councillor Coates?
Yeah, look, whole in support. I think it was pretty obvious when we had that application that Councillor Ewan referenced the Melville Street one. You know, there's sometimes if people find themselves in these situations where they feel they don't have a way forward because, you know, they're trying to meet two sets of circumstances that don't have any wriggle room. You know, I think in some cases the best solution, weirdly enough, is us using our discretion. You know, and much like on that previous application where the officers had pre-prepared grounds for approval, you know, sometimes I think they can do the right thing and give us strict advice on planning grounds, but they can also give us advice on, well, this is what we might consider on other grounds. But yeah, look, I'm very supportive of this motion.
Thank you. Mr. Noy, how, I mean, I know of situations where businesses have wanted to put in lifts and they've turned away because it's been questioned as to the heritage implications in older buildings, and we know full well that happens at residential areas, residential buildings as well. How do we pick up those sort of situations, and is there any other sort of codes apart from just heritage that do impact on these things as well, like access?
Well, I mean, there could be a number of codes that come into play depending on the solution that you might be purporting to provide in terms of access. I mean, for example, you know, it could project into a driveway and the width of the driveway might be compromised. And, you know, also, you know, turning facilities for vehicles and that sort of thing. So there may be other sort of implications, but there are some flexibilities with those standards to some degree, and people always want to, you know, maintain some of those access requirements. So yeah, so hopefully I've provided you with some examples.
Yeah, and I mean, are there situations where our planners have you know, advised, well, this ain't going to work because of the heritage implications on heritage?
Yeah, look, I mean, we always endeavour to try and find a solution, and I think Alderman Briscoe has identified a number of good examples of where we have worked with, you know, our own buildings and other building owners to provide good quality access that do not diminish the heritage values of those sites. I mean, the one in Melville Street was particularly problematic because there was a significant grade change and there were limited alternatives. So it's not a common thing, but I think that one did highlight that there can be some that are problematic.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. Any further questions, or did you have any other comments, Councillor Ewan?
No, thanks.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried unanimously, so that it will go to council on Monday, I think. That's right? Yep, thank you. Item 10 is responses to questions without notice, and we've got a couple there. Can I have them done on a job lot? Yep. Thank you. Alderman Briscoe. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. Item 11 is questions without notice. Councillor Dutta.
I have a few questions, Chair. The first one is in regards to the reference which was made in the Mercury article on 11th of September that 92 residential developments were knocked back in the last 12 months. Can you please provide a list of all these 92 development applications and which elected members voted for and which against these 92 residential development applications?
Look, firstly, there weren't 92 separate development applications. I think there were 92 dwellings. As for the list, I will can provide you with that and the voting record.
So just a clarification then. So it wasn't 92 development applications, but dwellings.
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay.
That's as I read it.
All right. So there are only 4 development applications.
That's correct.
Thank you. Now, the next question I have is, do you know if the council staff or your section or department provided the information which appeared in the Mercury regarding the voting patterns of the elected members?
Certainly it wasn't any of my staff or myself that provided that information.
Thank you. And
That might be something for finance and governance anyway, or you got that information? You're happy to answer that?
Well, yeah. Look, I don't. Well, it certainly wasn't anyone in. It wasn't myself or my department. Now, whether it was someone outside of my department, so I'd need to take that one on notice, Chair.
Or is this pulled from the minutes?
Yeah, but beyond the what's already available within the minutes.
Yeah. Okay. And the next question is, how many development applications were approved under delegated decision over the last 12 months, and how many of these were new developments? Thank you.
Delegated to officers, you mean? Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
And was that including the number of dwellings?
Please. Yeah.
Thank you.
I've got a
Alderman
query
Briscoe.
before I ask the question. The query is, can I ask a question that relates to another committee, but I'm not on that other committee here?
Take that on notice.
My response would be is probably more. Well, you could ask the question at that committee.
But I'm not on that committee.
You can ask questions there.
But I believe in the past we've allowed questions to be asked this committee that is responded to at the appropriate committee.
No,
I think
I've been rejected on that.
I think.
Okay. Well, look, I'll accept the ruling of the chair.
Yeah, thank you. So I think if you ask the question, go ahead and ask the question, and if we need to refer it to another committee, then we will.
The question is, I've noticed in the last 3 years the Lord Mayor's office has been used as a members for Hobart. The Lord Mayor is acting as a member for Hobart and sending out, using the resources of the staff in the Lord Mayor's office as it is an electoral office. And my question is, how many letters have left the Lord Mayor's office using only the Lord Mayor's signature and the Lord Mayor's name? For example, a letter was sent to all schools in Hobart offering her to come and explain things to do with the state government's initiative to do with traffic. And how many other letters of a similar nature have gone out from the office, and how much resources of that office is used as what I would say is electioneering?
So it's not appropriate for this committee, so I'll refer that to the Finance and Governance Committee to be a question without notice there.
Thank you.
And I'd appreciate it, and I think the officers would also appreciate it, that if you can, please write your questions down so that it's much easier to minute and so forth.
I'm happy to
capture.
email
Thank you.
in a moment.
Yep.
Chair, I've got a problem with this process, because once before I asked a question and I was informed that that's a question for another committee, but I never got a chance to ask the question. So I think we've got to be careful that we ask questions at the appropriate committee rather than raising them through another committee, because then it's 2 bites at it, really.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I take that on. I'll take that on board. I made a ruling from the chair. So, if there are no further questions on that notice, I'll ask that we go. Somebody move item 12. Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Those in favour? Those against? Item is carried. So thank everybody for listening in, and I'll now close the open portion.